I'd like to move on to fasting and kind of related
Oh, yeah.
ketosis.
So
Yeah,
our ancestors, the ancestral mothers and fathers,
yeah.
they had to work really hard to get their food.
Mm,
Our ancestral fathers would travel 9 to 10 miles, wear down the prey, kill it, carry it back to camp. The ancestral mothers would maybe travel 2 or 3 miles, do some gathering, carry that back to camp. The social compact was the ancestral mothers did the cooking. The men ate first, and then the women ate. And then we would, rest and recover a few days. When the food ran out, the cycle started again. We're in ketosis because of either we work so hard. If you work more than 2 hours, you're in ketosis because your body's used up all your stored carbs. So you're in ketosis on the basis of exercise.
mm,
Or you're in ketosis on the basis of there's no food.
yeah.
We were never in ketosis on the basis of fat, unless we were starving and we're burning our own fat. 100 years ago, physicians at the Mayo Clinic made the observation that if you starved kids, you could stop their seizure disorders when they were basically in ketosis. Then in the, I believe the 50s and 60s, we started giving people high-fat diets so they wouldn't lose weight, and they would be in ketosis, and that would control their seizures. And now, in the last 60 years, there's been a tremendous interest in high-fat diets and ketosis as a way of managing seizure disorder, cognitive decline. There's some interest in disorders of insulin resistance. It's a very new phenomenon.
Mm,
Historically, we've been in ketosis very often through something called metabolic switching. You got into ketosis through physical activity. You ate, you were out of ketosis for a few days. You're out of food, you're back in ketosis. Or you were out for the hunt, even though you still had some food and you were in ketosis because of physical activity. So we were switching back and forth between being in ketosis on the basis of either absence of food or physical activity, and the fed state, which is probably higher in protein and had a very diverse set of plants, high in fiber, low in carbs, certainly not high glycemic index. Historically, that's how humans ate. It was not this high dairy, high butter kind of diet.
right.
That's a very new phenomenon.
Yes. So you talk about healthy fats. So for you, what is a healthy fat?
So the kinds of fat that our ancestors cooked in was rendered animal fat: chicken fat, duck fat, goose fat, tallow, lard. Uh, and then more recently, we figured out olive oil, and I really like olive oil. It's a great fat, but I use it cold.
Hmm.
Uh, we need those fats because those are a very important part of our cell membrane. Fats that have been refined and manufactured, some of the seed oils, those are a new kind of fat. Trans fats, processed fats, those are a new kind of fat that can be oxidized and really quite damaging to us. So olive oil, great fat. I'd much rather use it cold. Rendered animal fats are another good fat. Omega-3 is in grass-fed meat, wild fish.
Hmm.
Omega-6 would be in nuts and seeds.
Right. So, okay, in terms of kind of restricted feeding or intermittent fasting, which are slightly different, I believe.
Yeah. So we know if we don't eat for at least 14 hours, some really great changes happen to our mitochondria.
Mm,
And so I encourage my patients to eliminate the snacks and work towards constricting their eating window into a smaller time frame. That's
mm,
called time restricted feeding.
yeah.
There's another strategy, intermittent fasting, which 5 days of eating your normal calories and 2 days of reduced calories that may be 500 calories on those 2 days. Or you could do eating every other day without increasing your calories on the days you're eating and having nothing on the days you're not eating. And actually, that's what I'm doing presently, is eating every other day.
Well, okay. Because I was going to ask whether that would change as you get older. Do you see, the calculation for when you should eat?
So there's a lot of benefit for time-restricted feeding, lots of benefits for intermittent fasting, a lot of benefit for a short periodic fast. Yes. Doing this depends on the health of the individual. If someone is very frail, we need to get them a little stronger before we start asking them to do time-restricted feeding or intermittent fasting.
Right. So you mentioned multi-day fasts. Do you see kind of benefit in those, like 3 or 5 days?
A multi-day fast, particularly if you go longer than 3 days, that stimulates the stem cells. It's a great way to youthen yourself, a great way to get stem cells out of your bone marrow into your bloodstream, which can then help repair the parts of you that have had some wear and tear. Great strategy. The caveat being, if you have a multi-day fast that lasts longer than 3 days, you have a dip in your immune cells. And during that time period, you're going to be a little more vulnerable to infection. So in the time of the pandemic, I don't want my folks fasting more than 1 or 2 days.
Interesting. Oh, I had not heard that before. Okay. So one question I had is, so you talk about metabolic flexibility. Now, I think that most people right now, if you're eating a Western diet, especially you're having snacks, then you are kind of always on the carbohydrate, right?
Correct.
So
correct.
How long would it take to build metabolic flexibility?
Well, it'll depend on the individual. If you've created, pre-diabetes for yourself, type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, it's going to take longer to improve your insulin sensitivity. If you have right now normal blood sugar control, it will not take as long. So again, it will depend on your circumstance. The step number 1 is to improve your insulin sensitivity. And we can monitor that with a glucose and or ketone meter and see what your glucose is, have a meal, and check your glucose serially after that to see if you get a big spike or not.
Right. And then kind of work up through intermittent, so time-restricted feeding.
Right. Then you can go down time-restricted feeding. You could do intermittent fasting. You could do a periodic fast. And then over time, likely your insulin resistance will diminish. Your insulin will become more sensitive. And as you get more insulin sensitive, then you could go back and forth between a high-fat diet, a moderate carb diet, and a high-protein diet and moderate carbs.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because, I mean, I know someone. He was eating a Western style diet, and then he goes on a fast but then he gets very tired, right? Because there's no glucose in his blood, and so it takes some time to get used to.
It takes a while to get used to that. Before the pandemic, I would practically do a 7-day water. I'm biking to and from work, 5 miles to work, 5 miles back, doing my strength training and workout. And I did that all the way through the 7-day fast without any problem.
Well, okay.
But I had been doing that kind of eating pattern for years. So it's not something that I would have people immediately do. You need to gradually transition from your current eating pattern to a time-restricted pattern to intermittent fasting to periodic fast if you want to go down that path. And you do it at the pace that feels comfortable to you.
Right. Excellent. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you found the video informative. Please do hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell button for new video release notifications. It encourages us to continue to create more videos about anti-aging and extending healthy lifespan. Thank you so much for your kind support. I wish you all well and we'll speak to you again soon.